Hey, this is David the RV Shepherd. Today I want to go over my top 10 sidewall issues that we've seen over the last several months doing RV inspections. So this quick video is going to show you things that we've seen, and I've ranked them, and I'll be interested to see if you share in my ranking from minor being number 10 to something really significant, the worst problem being number 1. This is not an all-inclusive video. This is just what we've seen in the last several months doing RV inspections. This is our top 10 list. If you want to follow on for some other top lists of RV problems that we've seen in RV inspections we've done, hit the like and subscribe and follow along. Let's get to the list, and we'll start off with number 10. This is the least issue, the smallest issue that we saw. And that was, if you're not familiar with what we're looking at here, this is the external LP connection for like an outside grill or something like that. And these are super convenient because obviously you can plug your grill in, you can flip that switch at the bottom, and then now propane is going from your RV to your little outside grill. The problem was that this collar, if you're not familiar with them, they spring back to allow your LP hose to lock in. It's just like if you've ever used a pneumatic system with those pressure locking air valve hoses. It's the exact same kind of thing. But the problem was the bottom metal sidewall was preventing that mechanism from sliding back. So this was on a brand new unit. And so if they bought it, they would have had trouble getting their LP, external grill hose connected to it. This is a minor problem because all they really needed to do is that mounting plate that's on the right side of the photo. They just had to bend it down a little bit to fix it and make it right. Number 9. This I see quite a bit on fifth wheels, especially, sometimes on travel trailers. And that is a crack. And just to zoom out a little bit, this is in the wheel flare for the wheels. And so this is on a travel trailer or a fifth wheel. And sometimes I see them, like in this case, we just saw one, but in the past, last year or something, I've seen where 3 or 4 or 5 or almost every one of these are cracked. And I think they get cracked from one or two reasons. One is either the screw has been over tightened. This is just a piece of plastic, or it's just worn out over time while you're going down the road. Air and bumps and things are making that plastic piece, vibrate and rattle a little bit, and it just wears out from the tension of all of that. Number 8. This is a backed out screw. It's good that there is a screw there, but what's the screw's purpose? It's to hold things in place. And this particular one on the left side of the screen, that's a slide out. And this is a trim piece that goes in the cutout of the sidewall where the slide out fits in. RVs are rolling down the road, they're bumping up and down, they're shuddering and shaking, and that's just going to make this whole trim piece potentially come loose if nothing's done about it. Number 7. This is on a brand new RV as well, and this RV manufacturer is starting to get a lot of love lately, and that is a Brinkley. This is a Brinkley fifth wheel, a brand new unit. Did this inspection at a dealership, and while the RV's in really good condition, which isn't true of all brand new RVs, in the sidewall here you see these trim pieces, and what's missing there is the head of a screw. Maybe in manufacturing or something, the screw head got over tightened and it popped off. And whoever the person or the robot or whatever's manufacturing these things, actually putting those screws in, didn't notice or didn't do anything, or it popped off somewhere on down the factory line or maybe on its way to the dealership. Not a big deal. Drill it out, put a new screw in it, off you go. But again, one of those things, brand spanking new RV, and I would want all the screws that are supposed to be there, wouldn't you? Number 6. I see this a lot. Do you know what manufacturer of RV this is? I'll tell you at the end of this little segment here for number 6. But I see this pretty much exclusively, unless it's a problem with that individual RV. But I see this on a little bit older units, maybe 10 years old, from this particular manufacturer. So if you know the manufacturer, comment before I get to it. So I see it here. This is the bottom corner of a slide out. The slide out is all the way in. and the top, the bottom part of the picture, the top is like part of a storage bay or the storage bay area. This is under a slide out. You see these different areas. We're getting this bubbling up, which is typically a corrosion underneath the paint. And it's erratic in the sense that it's here, it's there, it's not here, it's not there. All these pictures are from 3 different RVs. They're slightly different color, you can tell, but they all have the same issue. Do you know what manufacturer I'm talking about? This is the beloved Tiffin brand. Tiffin is a great RV. Older Tiffins have a lot of love, just like older Monaco coaches. But I've seen this on several, probably 5, 6, 7 different Tiffin brand motor coaches from somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 to 10 years ago. And I don't know if it's a specific, certain set of years, but we see this corrosion, and I every time I see it, I push on it. I try to see if it's crackling, if the paint's gonna push in, but it never does. It seems like the paint's always secure. So if you've seen this, if you have a Tiffin, go out and look right above your storage bays or right on the framing around your slide outs, and tell me if you see this kind of what looks like corrosion underneath the paint. And if you have seen this in more detail, I'd love to hear what you saw. Maybe even share a picture with me if you can. Like what's the level of corrosion here we're looking at? Again, every time I've seen it, I've pushed in on it, and I expect it to kind of crinkle in. You hear it snap and pop and things, and that means that there's an issue and there's a problem, and it's going to start deteriorating and the paint's going to start flaking off. But in these RVs that we've seen lately, we have not experienced that. I push on it and it's firm. It's just bumpy. It's kind of weird. There's one more. All right, let's go to number 5. This is just to illustrate that those transition parts between walls can frequently become problems. This one here is a transition between the sidewall and the end cap. In this case, the end cap is a molded fiberglass cap that is just put onto the back, and then there's a joint there where the end cap wraps around and it meets the sidewall. There's a joint just like this towards the front of the RV. There's a joint just like this at the top where the roof rolls over and meets the top of the sidewall. All these places are places where you need to be looking for sealant. What is the condition of the sealant? This sealant here is cracked. It's dry. It's beginning to separate. I call these gaps in the sealant. This is a close-up of that same picture. And this is just the beginning of something that can be a problem. I call it the fingernail rule. If you can get your fingernail in a gap, that means water can get in there. And if water can get in there, it can get into your RV. And we all know that water intrusion is a bad, bad thing for RVs. All right, number 4. Now we're starting to get serious. This one really surprised me. And the reason this one is scary as it looks is not number 1, is because this particular RV, or where this crack is at the very front of the RV. And that void kind of to the bottom, that kind of square rectangular void, is where the steps come out. So this is almost like a bumper cover. And looking at that crack, that's exactly what I think probably happened, is that they backed up, either backing up straight or they were turning and backing up, and something caught the bottom of that lip and pulled it and ripped it. Number 3. This one, you might not at first realize what's going on. This is a Class C, and this is the overhang on the front end of the Class C. The hood is kind of directly below this. To the left in the picture would be the windshield and the driver passenger cockpit area. And this is actually the passenger side, and this is the driver side. You can see the driver side has holes drilled in all the way around, like a corner kind of thing. The passenger side, they're more just in a line. At first I thought maybe somebody had mounted something to the outside, but then it didn't make any sense to me. It's like, I mean, maybe they're like me and they're trying to find the stud in a wall, and why use a stud finder when you can just drill a hole, drill a hole, drill a hole until you find it. But this is a fiberglass end cap. There are no studs in this thing. It's just one big piece of fiberglass. Until we got in, this is like one of those upper bunk areas inside of Class C, and we started pulling things back, and you could see that water had been in there. So somewhere in this front end cap, either in those joints where I just talked about on, I think it was number 6, where the front wall meets the side wall, those joints not being good. There's a joint like that up on the roof where the front cap meets the roof. Also in Class Cs, they tend to have a side window in one side or the other, or sometimes both, on those upper bunks. And I don't know why those windows seem to have trouble. I'll do another video on common RV window problems we see. So if you want to see that, like and subscribe so you get those new videos. But those windows on Class Cs that are up by the upper bunk, I think it has to do with the way that that front end cap hangs over the cab. So I think there's just more bouncing going down the road that causes those windows to wear out. But either way, this RV had obviously had some internal leaks, and the quickest way to get it out for this previous owner was to drill holes in it and just let it drain out. Instead of what I would do is I'd be more interested in fixing the problem, fixing the leak. Number 2, this looks like chickenpox. And if you have a RV that has chickenpox on the outside, there's one thing you need to think of and nothing else. That's water damage. Chickenpox like this is on an RV, and we'll close up on it here a little bit. So the paint still feels really smooth. It's still got its clear coat, but there's all these little bumps on it. That is caused by water getting into the sidewall. If you don't know, a fiberglass sidewall, which is very common in almost all RVs, is a layer of different material. But if water gets in there, either it'll drain through by the styrofoam, it'll get on that thin piece of wood. That thin piece of wood will start to swell up or hold water, and then that'll start to cause the fiberglass to start to break down a little bit, and it looks like this in these little holes. So again, it's not always the end of the world. It just kind of depends on the price point. It depends on, you and what you're willing to tolerate and do. But it's one of those things you want to push on. Number 1, this was what I would call the worst, most egregious problem. Let me jump in here real quick and offer you a free RV pre-underway checklist that can help you get started in your RV adventure. If you are new to RVing, especially if you are looking at buying an RV, getting that free checklist will also add you to the list to be notified when my new course, How to Buy an RV Without Regret, comes out. The link is below, but you can just go to noregretrv.com. That's noregretrv.com to pick up that free RV pre-underway checklist. All right, let's get back to the video. Number 1, this was what I would call the worst, most egregious problem. And it doesn't look like that big of a deal, but this is let's call it the framing again around a slide out. So on the right is a slide out. The bottom right corner of this picture is a slide out. The circled area is kind of like these sort of decorative caps that go over some framing, if you want to call it that. So basically there's a hole cut in the sidewall where the slide out's going to go in, and then they kind of frame that out. Well, these things on this particular RV all over the place, on especially the front, near the front driver's area, these outside areas were not sealed. So all this should be sealed. You can see gaps very clearly. Let me go back to the other one. I mean, there's a clear gap, right? I could get water to go in there from 5 feet away with a bucket and just throw it on there. And up at the top of that circle, in the middle of that circle, all those are places where water can get in. And it had rained, I think, that night before we came to do this inspection. And guess what we find on the inside? Those arrows are outlining the spot where water is inside on the floor, right at that same corner, just inside of this. That screw mounting bracket thing on the right-hand side is the seat belt for the driver's seat. To the left is the floor of the slide out. And so we have water coming in and trailing across. Well, where did that water come in? It came in through the slide out somehow. And here's another picture of it from a different angle. Water should never, ever, ever come inside an RV from the outside. It doesn't matter if it's a roof leak, a sidewall issue, a slide out issue, a plumbing vent issue, a skylight issue, you left the window open, water should not come in. Now, something to know is that water damage does not occur from one instance of water intrusion. You leave the window open, it thunderstorms, everything gets wet right inside the window. You close the window, you mop it up, off you go, that's fine. No water damage. Water damage happens over a prolonged period of constant and repetitive exposure to water. I'd love to hear your comments. Tell me, do you have a Tiffin motorhome, and does it have some of that what looks like corrosion under the paint, typically around the bottom of the slide outs or the top of the storage compartment doors? Do you have any missing screws on the outside of your RV? Do you have any soft spots? Have you seen an RV that has soft spots? I'd love to hear what you've seen out there as you're looking for RVs. And hey, if you like content like this, if you are new to RVing, if you are thinking about buying an RV or you have a new RV and you want more educational information on how to take care of it, or if you're thinking about buying one, on things to look for, follow along on this channel, because that's exactly what this channel is about. I'm David. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.